Planet Dolan.
From dangerous eloping to murdering for no reason, we count 10 children who murdered their parents. Hey everyone, my name is Melissa. I'm here to caress your brain cells with weird facts from all over the world. Number 10. Andrew Wamsley. Rick and Susanna Wamsley were found brutally murdered in their home on December 11th in 2003. The biggest piece of evidence was a clump of hair found clenched in Rick's fist. It turned out that it belonged to a 19-year-old Susanna Toledano. After she was arrested, she told the police about 3 other suspects, one of which provided the gun. But the ones that committed the murder were their son, Andrew, and his girlfriend, Chelsea Richardson. It turns out that the parents disapproved of Andrew's relationship and cut him off because of it. So, they killed Mr. and Mrs. Wamsley. All 4 received life in prisons for their actions. Number 9. Sara Johnson. A similar story follows Sara Johnson, as she murdered her parents in the same year for the same reason. Her parents disapproved of her relationship. She carried out the crime on September 2nd, also in 2003. Sara used an old lever-action rifle that the family owned, and while she used a glove to cover her fingerprints, she made the rookie mistake of throwing it out in the bin in front of the house. Her mother was shot in her sleep, and her dad while he was showering at 6 in the morning. Number 8. William Bresnahan Jr. stabbed his dad to death after a heated argument while camping in 1964. He then went on to bludgeon his mother to death after telling her what he'd done. He confessed the crime to the police. It turns out that Will was abused by his parents from a young age, and this argument was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Nonetheless, he still received 2 life sentences in prison. But he didn't spend the rest of his life rotting in jail. Instead, he took courses from the University of Colorado and did well enough to be let out on parole in '77. William ended up becoming a doctor that treated migrant workers in California. His ability to turn his life around was recognized by the state in the way of an unconditional pardon from Governor Roy Romer. Number 7. Seth Powell walked a completely different path. He killed his 19-year-old brother while he was watching TV, and then waited for the rest of his family to return home for Thanksgiving. Not even his girlfriend, April Boss, survived the slaughter. His brothers, fathers, grandfathers, mothers, and girlfriends' bodies were being moved by Seth and his best friend when April's parents came by and saw them both. This time, he took off running, but he was quickly found and arrested. He killed everyone because his dad was threatening to throw him out, and no one in his family was sticking up for him. Seth was shot to death 22 years later during a failed escape attempt. Number 6. Jazmin Richardson. On the 23rd of April, 2006, Deborah and Mark Richardson were viciously stabbed to death. Not only that, but Jacob, their 8-year-old son, was found upstairs with a slit throat, and Jazmin, their 12-year-old daughter, was missing. Jazmin and her 23-year-old boyfriend, Jeremy Steinke, were found in the next province over and were both convicted for the murder. For obvious reasons, the Richardsons disapproved of their daughter's relationship, so Jeremy got the idea from TV to murder his parents and elope. Jeremy's got 3 life sentences, and Jazmin ended up in a psychiatric hospital and has apparently shown remorse for the murders. Number 5. Larry Swartz, aged 17, was drunk on rum when his adoptive mother belittled him yet again for his poor performance in school. This was it. The beatings and constant punishments finally made him snap. He smashed her in the head with a wooden mallet and stabbed her throat with a kitchen knife. Kay's husband, Bob, came in to see what was going on, only to meet his dead wife and Larry's knife. Larry tried and failed to frame his foster brother, but they eventually caught him thanks to his poor efforts and put him in jail for life. Number 4. David Bain. No one actually knows the true story behind David Bain's family. The prosecution claimed that the 22-year-old shot his family and framed his father with a murder-suicide using the note, "Sorry, you were the only one who deserved to stay." The defense claimed there was no framing, and on the retrial, the court agreed. The motives were there for the father to do so, as there were rumors of him having a relationship with his daughter. To this day, opinions are split on the actuality of that day, but as of right now, David walks free. Number 3. John William McGrath. March 10th, 1962. John McGrath came home to see his parents arguing. This set something off in his head, and he murdered not just his parents, but both his brothers too with a rifle. He then drove 72 kilometers, or 45 miles, to a hospital and asked for treatment. he was promptly turned into the police. He was found innocent on the ground of insanity and was locked up for 10 years in a maximum security mental hospital. After that, he was put in a lower security hospital, but he escaped and hasn't been seen again to this very day, making him the longest running escapee in New Hampshire history, if he's still alive. Number 2. Lowell Andrews. Now onto the realm of true psychopaths. In 1958, Lowell Andrews' family was watching the TV when Lowell was upstairs shaving and then putting on a suit. He then went downstairs and shot his father 17 times as he was trying to crawl away. The rest of the family weren't far behind. He opened a window and made the scene look like a burglary before driving far away and watching a movie, presumably to establish an alibi. Police were suspicious due to his lack of emotion upon hearing the news. His Baptist minister eventually convinced him to admit his guilt. "I just don't know why I did it," said Lowell. "I didn't even feel anything as they died." Lowell was executed November 30th, 1962. Number 1. The Mendez Brothers. Lyle and Eric Mendez blew off their father's head with a shotgun and then shot their mother into a bloody pulp. In order to make it look like the mob did it, they shot their parents' kneecaps off. The reason they did it? In order to inherit their parents' fortune. While they were suspects, they weren't found guilty of the crime. They went and spent over $1 million in 6 months and were scot-free. But Eric eventually admitted to the murders to his psychologist on tape, and while he threatened to kill her if she told anyone, she went to the police anyway. Both are currently serving life in prison. Oh, humanity. You never fail to disappoint me. I'll see you guys next time.
As it turns out, this 73 pounds of 11-year-old bludgeoned his father and stepmother while his baby sister slept between them. The reason for hacking his folks to death? He had too many chores. So, like any rational person, he killed them in their sleep.